Well, welcome back to another 8th grade drawing session. We are still working on our project, which started out, it seems like a very long time ago now, with our piece of concept work. The car was already on there for you. You simply had to come up with some sort of decorations for it and then supply the background that it's sitting in front of, some sort of a thematic approach to it. And then after that, we gridded it out, and then we gridded off some paper and worked it down according to the theory of trying to get the largest amount of work done. So that's why we start with the background, or at least that's my methodology, and it seems to work. And then we finally narrowed it all down to the point where we had to begin the car. And so with that in mind, that's where we're at right now. So we did the tires here and here, and the large tire back here, which I still think needs to be addressed. So I'm going to put a question mark on that to make me come back to it. But it shouldn't delay the rest of the car. I believe this oval shape is correct. I do think that perhaps it needs to be a little bit wider on the tread. That's kind of where I'm going with this. Now, my theory is that we should work on the easier stuff first, and that would mainly mean that we need to concentrate on the outline of the car first and then work our way toward the more complex material. So I can almost see the car starting to appear in this void right here with the grid square still on it. So I think what I'm going to do is, in keeping with my theory about doing the easy stuff first, I'm going to start with this curve that's on the back of the car. So I'll leave this where it's visible and we can reference it. And it seems to me that it starts right on the top of the tire, and previously I had split this square and then I erased my split marks, and now I'm going to have to split it again because it really does give me a good idea. I might not even have to split it horizontally, but vertically for certain. I notice that the rear of the car just barely touches the tire, just over that halfway line, just over it. And so I guess I would call that about right here. So I'm going to put a little registration dot right there. I'm going to erase these out. Can always put them back later. Now what I've got to discern is how this curved line goes up and transits through this square and barely clips that corner and then continues on over here to where it's in the door and square H4. So let me find square H4. So H, and that'd be 1, 2, 3, and 4 right here. Where it's at in square H4 is, well, if I were to split it, and I'm not going to because there's a lot of lines in there, but I noticed that in the lower left-hand portion of square H4. So it'd probably be somewhere about right in here, I would estimate, and that looks like it might be just about right. So I'm going to put a dot there too to estimate it. It would be this point right here where the antenna is at. And now, let's see if we can dot our way along here until we get a satisfying marking, because we're aiming for it to just barely cut that corner. So I'm going to dot, barely cut that corner, and aim for this dot. And then I just keep going back. If that's got my attention and it looks like it might be the right curvature, then I'm going to reinforce that. And as I draw along, I'm starting to see that that is pretty accurate. And so I can start to bold my lines now. And it looks like my estimate of where the window in the background would end was pretty accurate. So using a little bit of measurement and a little bit of visual analysis, we were able to, my window came in right on the money there with just a fraction of an inch on each side, so no erasing really had to be done. Simply connecting these images that are in the background into what was previously just a void where there was a future car going to be. And now it's beginning to take shape. So I'm going to clean some of this up with my fancy eraser. Okay, so it looks to me like we're making some progress here. So let's consider then some other portions of the car that are simple as well. And I think that would be the lower portion of the car, which is just slightly curved, by the way. So that is it's very subtle. And so these kinds of things most people don't see. Now the question is, where does this bottom portion right here meet that large tire in the background? And in this case, we're going to have to split the square to find out. So at least in this square, and it's hard to see, I know, on the camera, but if you're doing what I'm doing, you can see it on your paper. And I'm splitting the square again. Okay, here's what I'm noticing is right where that split line comes together, dead in the middle, is where that bottom of that car meets the tire. And strangely, if I split the square here, and I split the square here, it shows that my dead middle of this, wait a minute, yeah, okay, good. It shows that my tire is actually wider than it should be, which is strange. So, but knowing this, I'm going to make a command decision to put my dot right there. Okay, so I may be off a fraction of an inch, and I may have to live with that. And I'll still leave that question mark in there, because it does give me some moment of pause there. Okay, so if that's dead in the middle of the tire right there, right where these come together, this would be right there also. Now, what I've got to do is find out where this is happening, and I've already split that line, and amazingly, let's go and find it again in square D6. If I split this, and if I split it again, it appears to me that if I follow this little mini split line, right there is precisely where the bottom of the car is at. So that would be right here. Now I've got something to work with. Now I will go ahead and use my ruler just to give myself a starting point for this. But it is, if we were to do a little analysis, if we were to take the ruler and lay it against the bottom of the car, it's pretty obvious that the bottom of the car is not straight line. So let's, first of all, we're going to kind of ride this uphill, so I'm going to go to the top of the dot over here and the bottom of the dot over here, so that I do get it slightly tilted uphill. Okay, that's going to give me something to reference. Now I'm going to find this little bump out right here where this suspension component is at, and that looks like it's in square G6, and it would be just off and low center. So G6, and it'd be just off of the center and just a little lower. So it looks like it's a little kind of a semi-triangular, but it's rounding on the end, so something like this. Okay, now I'm going to find this other one over here that's in square E6. So square, here's E, of course this is 6 down here, and it looks like, I mean, if I had to estimate it, it's almost dead in the middle of the square right there. So I'm going to just trust my own intuition. I'm going to put it in the middle of the square right there. And it appears to be the same shape as this one back in here. So we want them to be pretty much the same shape. It looks like it's rounded rather than angular. Alright, so now we're getting somewhere. So what we've got to do is just barely bow this line. It's got to be just slightly below this line over here. And then as it starts to, it looks like it really starts to curve in row F, column F. So we're below our reference line, and now we're going to start kind of trying to bend it upwards. It's just the most slight of curvations. Okay, here it goes upwards now, closer to the line, and then we're going to try to. Okay, that looks pretty good. Although it does look like there's some distance between the, so I'm going to just, what I'm just trying to do is carefully curve this line so it's almost imperceptibly curved. And most people, when they look at it, they believe that it is straight, and they're mistaken when you do a little bit of analysis with a ruler. Now, sometimes too you can fix these kind of things with your eraser. So where you want it to be, you know, a little more curved, you just erase away certain parts of the line. Okay, so if the line density or the thickness of the line is adequate, you can erase the upper and lower portions of the line until you get something that is what you believe is an accurate representation of what you are seeing. Okay, so let's just keep on manipulating our line until we get something that really is pretty accurate representation of what we're looking at on the picture. And that's really what we're attempting to do here, is make an accurate representation. And it doesn't have to, it's not just that it has to be visually accurate, but it also has to be communicatively accurate, so that when people see it, they, instead of saying, well, what's up with this or what's up with that, they feel almost instantly whatever message it is you're attempting to get across to them. Okay, I will say that that is slightly curved. I will look at this. I will also say that that is slightly curved. So I feel pretty good about that now. I can go ahead and maybe bold that line. I feel pretty confident I won't be changing this one at least. Okay, so about, you know, the pace of your work and is more about being methodical and just keeping to your plan than it is about rushing. Some people want to get things done really fast, and that's really, I'm not really sure that's the way to do things, especially complex analytical style work as we're doing right now. And the imagery is really not that complex, but the application of it, or the actual putting it on the paper part, is. Okay, I'm starting to think that my two images here are starting to take up about the same amount of space. And that's really quite satisfying here. I'm very happy with that. So I guess we need to continue on the silhouette of the car, working on the information that is in square E4 now. So we're going to have to start our, I suppose we're going to have to start the windshield here. So I'm looking at this carefully, and I'm going to try to just plot where all of these things happen at. So it looks like I left off and this was already plotted. Okay, now when I say plot, it sounds so much like mathematics, but there is a lot of that in this particular type of artwork. Okay, so now I'm looking at this corner, and it's obviously in the upper left corner of square E4, so that would be the upper left-hand corner of square E4, somewhere it looks like about right in here. Okay, now it's also got a bowed line. It's not easy to see, but it's very slightly curved away. So in fact, where it is here is closer to the line than where it is here. So I have to account for that. So here is closer to this line, that's the grid line, than it is here. So I'm going to have to move my dot slightly to the right to account for that. I could also move my dot slightly to the left down here, and I might do a combination of those two things for accuracy. Okay. So now, see, it would bow as it came this direction. Okay, let's plot the next one. Now you can see the distance between the corner of the windshield and the grid line above it gets narrower as we get over here into square F4. So in square F4, I see that as almost to halfway. So let's find square F4, and here it is. And the way it appears to me is it's almost to the grid line up here, and it's not quite to halfway. So if this is halfway, then this is about, oh good lord, 2/3 of that maybe, and almost on the grid line. So if this is halfway, then our corner of our windshield here, this one, would be not quite there, about 2/3 of the way, almost to the grid line. It looks like it's actually touching the wood trim. So we're going to put it about right here. We'll put a dot. Alright, I can get rid of this. Let's dust this. I gotta say, we're really starting to get a picture developing here. It's really quite entertaining to see it now. All the hard work, you know, well, it's not really behind you. The coloring is going to take a while on a project like this, no doubt about it. So we're just getting to the fun stuff, I suppose. Okay, now looking at this, these lines are actually straight. So I could use my ruler and join these lines, and it looks like it's actually 2 lines. That's a very narrow stripe. So we're going to tilt our ruler at that very slight angle and draw a line. And then I'm going to slide it down just a tad bit. And I'm going to draw another line. Now the strange thing is how that is all put together there. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I think I've got to get rid of this very minor little piece of line in there, because my windshield is obscuring that piece of the window on the house in the background. So if we want it to look three-dimensional, we have to account for that blocked visual obstruction. Okay, now this here has got a circle and then another circle, and it's joined by 2 lines. So what we've really got here is 1, 2, 3 lines. So where's our circle? It's up here, just below the corner of the windshield. So it would be about right here. Okay, where's the other one? It is down here, just above the hood of the car. So I'm going to put a little circle there. Alright, now having done that, we can see that this is slightly bowed and tapered at the top. So there is a tiny little tapered portion to the windshield sticking out there. And these are slightly bowed, almost straight. And then it just hooks right into the hood at this point, visually at least. Now that means I can erase my registration dot there and kind of tighten up that little where those 2 portions come together. Okay, so that looks pretty good. In fact, I can make these circles slightly larger now, because that's how they actually read in the picture. Okay, now also I notice that there's this 3rd portion right here, that line that comes down and will actually stop at the bottom of this. So this is solid, but there's a thin curved line, and it actually goes on the inside of the circle. It's about right here. I can hold my lines, and let's see what I've got going there. Well, that is starting to look quite convincing. Now I'm going to work on this other portion over here next. Now this is on square F4, so I'm going to square F4, which is right here, and this is going to be a little bit more complex work, it appears. So we've got what appears to be on the side of our car an oval. So you know what? We may have to continue to draw this portion of it until these 2 meet together, so that we can make it look more convincing. And I will say, we've also got this curve right here, which is some easy drawing. So I think what we'll do is we'll go from here, and we're going to curve this. It looks to me like this is split, and I've already got this split in here. And it looks to me like it passes over the split line and then down past that. So somewhere about right here I believe there's the grid line. That little piece of trim is right on it. So it's about right here if I had to put a registration mark. And so I'm going to just start dotting along. And that looks pretty good. So the dotting technique is just really powerful. It really, really works. And it's easy to fix if you mess it up. And I'm satisfied with that, so I'm going to go ahead and bold it. Okay, now if I were to take my ruler and analyze this other line, it appears to me like it just barely tilts away from the grid line. Just barely. So it seems to me that just when it gets underneath here, it has a tiny little bump out right there where the trim is at. And so we're going to account for that. And then it comes, essentially it stops on its way down to this part right here. So it would probably stop just below the grid line. I'm going to say about right here, because below the grid line there's another piece of trim. And so we want to kind of, it really does look straight, but it's really slightly bowed. All these curved lines. Okay, so let's just kind of curve it along so it slightly curves back toward the registration dot that we made. And now I'm starting to get somewhere with this, the appearance of this. And it's coming together quicker than I had anticipated. So, let's go ahead and hold the line if you're keeping up with the instruction. If you're not, just pause the video and then keep up with the instruction. Okay. So yeah, you don't have to try to draw fast if that's what it seems like I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to work on that bottom portion right there that has kind of got me perplexed. But I think that's going to be fine. Okay, so we've got that part. Now, what else do we got to do here? I figure that if we come in from this portion of the behind the seat there, we can probably make a pretty good progress on this. So we're about right here is where we left off. Right here. So it looks like it just has this little shark fin kind of bump out right there just before the seat, and that's a piece of trim work it looks like, but it does give it that little bumped up effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump that up, and I'm going to actually, it goes like this. It's really a strange, like a wave almost. So yeah, it goes something like this. Now we'll come back to that part. What I'm just trying to do is work on its silhouette. And yeah, it does this a bit. It kind of really curves back dramatically. Like that. Yeah, something like that. It's almost like a wave or a shark fin. Mini shark fin shape. Okay, so that gets me to right here. That's where I'm really just trying to. And then that is it looks like a big piece of Italian bread or something. So it starts right here and it goes all the way about halfway across F4. So here's F4. So we're just going to kind of follow that. Well, no, it bumps up a little bit. See, there's just a little bump up right there. So I'm going to bump it up just a little bit right there. And then just kind of try to make a smooth line that curves a bit and then starts to go back downhill again, and F4 makes about halfway, about like this. Alright. Let's check it. It starts here in front of the door, goes under the door, curves up, ends up over here in the window. If I split this, it would be below the halfway line, which is right here. And that's kind of where it ends up. Okay, so very good. So we're going to I'm going to go back and just kind of bold that a little bit. And let's see, I guess I could do this part right here, the bottom portion of it too. It just follows. Oh, that's funny. Look, here's the little shark fin we drew, but the seat is, there's a line in front of the seat right here. And it goes like this. Okay. Huh. Cuts off that little corner right there if you observe it, just like this does right here. Okay, and it's a little bit thinner on this side than on this side, so kind of keep working along, trying to reproduce what we see right here. And it kind of goes uphill a little bit too, it appears. Okay, well, now. Okay, well done here so far. It's a little bit pointier down here, but it's not pointy, just pointier. Okay, pointier, but not pointy. Okay, and we've got our, let's see, right here is a part of the cushion. And it goes down, we'll just put that in there for right now. Out like this. Then over here's the other part of the cushion. And then it goes down like something like this, it looks like. Okay, so we're starting to get a car developing here. Now, see, we're here and we can start to work on our the portion of our windshield that we had to bail out on a minute ago. Okay, check this out. This seat comes down, then it bumps out a little bit. And that's where this line starts. So that line is just on the center line. Huh, that's funny. It's right there on the center line. And it's like a lowercase r. It curves. And it's about half that distance. It's about right like this. And then it has that little bump out just like this one. So it goes below the line just a bit. Wherever this is at, it kind of bumps out, just like that one does. Huh, this is funny. And then it goes pretty much straight down to about the same place, and it's just slightly curved, following this line. That's funny. So, and I've drawn these cars a few times, and I'm always fascinated by a lot of this as I rediscover parts of it that I hadn't seen before. And so when it was a different type of a project, the details weren't so important. But in this one, it is. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. We're going to take where these lines come together right there, this line, we're going to draw a curved line that's going to pretty much get us back to this area right here. And it doesn't quite touch the halfway mark on our split line. And there is just a bit of it hitting right at there we go. Okay, I'm looking right here. It goes like this. Okay. Now, that puts us right here on the drawing. And that is where we're going to start working with this other side of the windshield. So, it will all come together if you have faith in it. You have faith in it. This is funny too. While we're at it, we'll just continue this line. See, this line comes off the seat, comes down here, and drops down to about the same level as this one. So, where this comes off the seat, it looks like it curves backward just a tad. Okay, so it does curve back this way just a bit. And then when it gets below this line, just below this line, is where we get that little piece of body trim. Kind of starting to do its thing again. So it bumps out just a bit. And then this line will go pretty much even with these other lines. And curved in the same manner. So we're going to try to match that curvation. and it will end up somewhere, I guess, about down in here. So the grid system is really a good way to, especially when you are doing work and you have to leave it and come back to it over, you know, the day or the night or whatever. It really can help you figure out where to put things together at in your actual project. So I'm going to say this is one of the harder parts of it right now, is trying to get that windshield, that mechanical portion of that windshield in. Now it looks to me like that is clearly in square F4, and it's kind of in this corner right here, and it looks like it's a bit of a tilted, oval shape right there. So I'm going to try to just rough it in, and I will be drawing over top. Now it looks also like it's curved, so if I got to go back to my split line again, and I'll have to do some erasing, but that's how analysis is done here, okay? Now it looks to me like just somewhere about just below the split line right here is a bolt of some sort. And then it looks like up here, almost to the top of the windshield where this corner is at, is another bolt of some sort. A little closer. It's actually touching the window trim, so it's about right in here. Okay. Now, here's where we gotta, this is going to get tricky. This this oval shape has got a metal object coming out of it from, so I'm gonna have to make that larger. I've got too small. So I'm gonna have to bump that up a bit. And then carefully erase out some of the middle of my circle there. Okay, I think I've got an idea how this works now. And here's we're going to have to put like a little portion showing that it's going to be coming out of our oval. Let me dust that real quick. Some of this is a little difficult to see, I'm sure. So we're drawing an oval. Parts of it will be erased. You put like a little smiley face in the middle of it. Now we're going to start drawing this portion of the windshield that's pretty dramatically curved and actually quite heavy, the way I see it. And then this comes down and plugs in right here. Now we got to do a little bit of erasing here because it's easy to get lost when there's a lot of lines flying around in here. So I'm going to erase out the layout work again. I'm going to erase a hole probably right through that part of the paper. I'm going to come over here and erase out this layout work. I'm going to get out my soft brush and dust it. Okay, so now that's starting to look pretty good. Now what I'm noticing about mine and this is that this actually tapers. It gets more slender as it transits its way up into the picture. So I'm going to have to address that and make my bolt right there slightly smaller, and then do my best to make this appear to be more slender on one end than the other. There we go. Okay, so, and it's kind of messing with the curtain in the background there too. So this gets wider, and you know, we could actually make it wider down here as well, and that would enhance its the effect that it's pretty solid at the where it's mounted to the car, and then less solid where it is on the contact at the top of the windshield. Okay, there's a little portion of it that just sticks up above that bolt, and then as we can see, if we look at this carefully, and boy, you got to be careful looker at this, there is a very thin portion of the windshield on the inside of that. So just like over in here. So we're going to go along very close to the hardware that holds the windshield in there. It's going to take some careful erasing to make it work. And then, almost always, some redrawing, of course, as well. Oh, wow, that's the end of our session here. However, I'm going to finish up what we have got going here because we are succeeding on this project, and extreme progress has been made today, and that's really good, because a lot of times I know these projects, when you first start getting on them, it seems like it will be 100 years before you're ever done with them. Okay, now this is funny because right here we can see there's a little thin stripe of glass on the bottom of all this, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply use this this curvation right here to create that. So I'm going to follow along here, and it may curve all the way to here. That means that this, well, see what we've got to do. That means I've got to maybe lower this line now. That's what it is. And maybe enlarge my hardware that's holding all of this onto the car. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let me get all of this cleaned up here. And it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to do a little bit of erasing here real quick. And then, you know, I think we're on the verge of maybe being almost done with the drawing portion of the project here. And that means that we can get on to coloring it in the way that we planned it out on the worksheet here. So here we go. And this comes down here. Comes all of this. Hooks together in here somehow. Okay, that's really quite convincing. Let's see what we've got here. Give it a quick dust off some of the stuff. Let's see what we got there. Well, I gotta say, that's starting to look pretty accurate. Looks pretty accurate to this one right here. So if you're following along doing what I'm doing, then we've got a good thing going here. So tomorrow, or excuse me, next session, we'll get together and try to finish out a lot of the detailing on the car, including headlights, this suspension material down in here, the trim work, suspension pipes, you know, the flag. And then it's on to putting the flames or whatever is on your car on it, the decorations, and then we can start cleaning all of these other grid lines off and think about coloring it. So I'm going to leave that there to take a look at as we get ready to close up for this session. So thanks for your attention. Hope your work is coming along successfully, and I will talk to you in the next session. Have a good day.